So this is the pending session of PMI ACP, which we are supposed to complete. There is a tool and technique which is called as soft skills negotiation. And this is considered to be extremely important. This is where you, as an agile coach or a scrum master, can differentiate yourself from the other folks. We will be discussing about emotional intelligence, collaboration, adaptive leadership, negotiation, conflict resolution, and servant leadership. We know that an agile coach follows this servant leadership. He's a servant first, a leader next. Unlike your traditional project managers, wherein they are leader first. Okay, let us discuss each point in detail. Emotional intelligence. What does this mean? If you ask me, I would put it this way. Ability to maintain your cool when your wife is shouting at you, right? And trying to be good with your in-laws so that your wife remains cool. That is what this definition is all about. Achieving one's goals through the ability to manage one's own feelings and emotions. You need to be sensitive and you should be in a position to influence other key people. And you should be in a position to balance your motives and drives with conscious and ethical behavior. That's the definition. So, agile methods suggest the use of cross-functional team. If you're aware, the team which works on agile projects should be cross-functional. If the team is cross-functional, what are you doing basically? You're pulling in people with different roles, different skills, different perceptions, different cultures. You're pulling them together into a room and you're getting your production software built every few weeks. And this has a huge impact on culture, team structures, and how we interact with the people, right? The more effective we are at communication and interaction, the more effective we will be as team members. Hence, we need to understand about emotional intelligence. Within that, you have 7 components. The first thing is self-awareness. What is self-awareness? Self-awareness means understanding your own strengths and weaknesses. That's straightforward. Do a SWOT analysis on yourself. You'll get to know about your strengths and weaknesses. Emotional resilience. What is this? The ability to perform consistently in a range of situations, be it under pressure or even if you do not have any pressure, you should be able to adapt to the situation and behave appropriately. And you need to balance out the needs and concerns of the individuals involved. Right? Let me give you this example. While I was undergoing my campus placement, there was a company which has come for the campus placement, and I've made this bold statement, to the person who was interviewing me. He was a very senior person, by the way. So I told him that I never buckle under pressure. That was a statement which I've made. Then he asked me what are my hobbies. I told playing cricket. Immediately he asked me, how many times did you play cricket with the cricket ball? I told umpteen number of times. I have represented Hyderabad Cricket Association way back in 2000, 2001. He was happy. He asked me this question. What is the circumference of the cricket ball with which you have played for so many years? I was dumbstruck, right? There, he's trying to put me under pressure because I made a statement that I never buckle under pressure, right? So immediately what I've done, I've reciprocated in a different way, assuming that the interviewer would assume that I'm being a little different, right? So I asked him, sir, do you smoke? Because I've seen a packet of cigarette over there. He said, yes, I smoke. Then I asked him, what is the length of the cigarette that you have been smoking since 18 years? So I've asked him, how many years have you been smoking? He told 18 years. So I asked him, what is the length of the cigarette? which you have been smoking since 18 years. That statement was sufficient enough for him to throw me out. I didn't get the job, right? So look at that emotional resilience. If I would have maintained my cool under that pressure and tried to give him some ballpark figure, probably I would have got the job. So emotional resilience is extremely important. How you behave, how you perform when you're put under a range of situations, such as putting a lot of pressure on you. You're unable to meet your timelines. You're unable to meet your cost, right? You're unable to meet the desired quality. These are all the various situations that you might come across. How you behave under such circumstance is emotional resilience. Next thing is motivation. The drive and energy to achieve clear results and make an impact, right? You should be in a position to balance out the short term and long term goals, right? So how can you get motivated? Few people get motivated because trainer is going to, oh sorry, my bad. Yeah, Madhuri, sorry, I think you had a question,
That
please.
you're
Yeah,
no,
Madhuri.
no. I said that in between I couldn't hear your voice. That's
Oh, is it?
and now it's okay.
Now it's okay.
Yeah.
Did everyone face this problem, or guys, Amit, Suresh, are you guys able to hear me, or did you also find the disturbance in between? Amit, did it?
Yeah, it's okay for me. It's completely fine. I'm not facing any problem.
All right, how about Suresh?
I'm fine. I
All
don't
right,
have any issue.
yeah, fine. So yeah, Madhuri, I think you need to check your connectivity once, but that's okay. I'm also recording the session. All right, but please interrupt me, right? Whenever you have any disturbance, please interrupt me. It might happen with everyone also. Okay? All right. So you have different sections of people who behave differently, right? And they get motivated using different um, concepts, basically. Think about the concept of cane and carrot, right? Few people get motivated if I say them that I'm going to give him carrot, but I will not feed him, basically, right? I just show him. That is sufficient for a person to get motivated. There are few people who get motivated only if I whip them, punish them, reprimand them, right? Coercive power. Few people get motivated only if I feed the carrot because they have already seen many carrots in the past. So now I need to feed them with the carrot. Only then they'll get motivated. And there will be few people who are self-motivated. But we as agile coaches or scrum masters, we need to ensure that we always keep our team motivated. How can you do that? Probably at the end of each sprint, you celebrate a lot. At the end of each release, you once again celebrate. Whenever you meet a particular milestone, you celebrate once again. In this way, you ensure that you keep the team motivated always. You never let the team work for additional hours in agile project. Whatever work you can complete in 1 week or 2 weeks of time, that is your iteration. You complete so much, that's it. Just because you could not complete 2 or 3 additional requirements does not mean you're going to overstretch yourself for the weekends and things like that, right? It gets pushed to the next iteration or it gets pushed to the backlog, product backlog. So that is all about motivation, right? Few people get motivated looking into the leaders, right? Charismatic leaders such as, I mean, I'm cricket crazy fan, so Sachin is my motivation. Look at the dedication that person has since 18 years. Consistently, he has been performing 18 years. That's not a small deal. We have people who are more talented than Sachin Tendulkar, Vinod Kamble, right? What happened? If you lack discipline, gone is the case. So he is my motivation. Basically, you can have your own motivations. All right, next thing is interpersonal sensitivity. What does this mean? The facility to be aware of the needs and perceptions of others. Whenever you're taking any decision, whenever you're proposing any solution, right, please bear in mind the needs of the other people as well. Interpersonal sensitivity. Be sensitive towards other requirements. Do not just push your ideas, right? You need to think into the other people's sensitivity also. Influence. The ability to persuade others to change a viewpoint. You're persuading someone to change their viewpoint based on the understanding of the position and the recognition of the need. Right? And you should provide a rationale for the change, basically. If you're saying that I want to bring about this change, fine. But explain me the rationale for the change. And only then your ability to persuade is going to even increase further. Intuitiveness. The ability to arrive at clear decisions and drive their implementation even when you have incomplete or ambiguous information. Intuitiveness doesn't mean you're going to drive based on clear decisions, right? And intuitiveness does not mean you are good at driving provided I give you all the clear requirements, clear instructions. No, that is not intuitiveness. The ability to drive even when I give you incomplete or ambiguous information, that is where your intuitive skill comes into picture. You need to possess that as an agile coach. Consciousness, the ability to display clear commitment, right? And walk the talk, basically. You need to match words and deeds. The personal commitment to pursuing an ethical solution, right? Just because you want to solve a problem does not mean you're going to follow unethical means to get the job done, right? You also have to be ethical. Cautiousness, basically. All right. What are the benefits? What are the benefits which organizations will have, right? These are few of the benefits. Improved leadership. Most of the organizations have these kind of trainings for the senior leadership. Emotional intelligence trainings, right? You hear these kind of trainings. Why? Because it is going to improve the leadership style. It will help you manage resolutions or disputes. It will help you manage the disputes properly, right? The team working environment and things like that would become more effective. You'll be improving your negotiation skills. Extremely important, right? You should have good negotiation skills to cut a good deal with the client, to be profitable. Important. You'll be able to make cost-effective decisions, better quality problem solving and decision making. So these are few of the benefits to the organization if you possess this skill of emotional intelligence. Next thing, collaboration versus coordination. What is the difference between collaboration and coordination? Collaboration means you work together to jointly produce a deliverable. Remember paired programming? Let me ask you this question. Paired programming is a principle of which agile flavor? Scrum or DSDM or which agile flavor? Yeah, Ahmed got it right. Extreme programming. How many principles do we have in extreme programming? Amit, Madhuri, Suresh. How many principles do we have in extreme programming? No, Amit, that's not right. Madhuri? You can take a call. Yeah, don't worry, you might be wrong, but I'm just trying to trigger that conversation. That's it. Yeah, how many? Do you have any answer to that? 12 principles. Extreme programming has 12 principles. You need to know all the 12 principles. Lean principles, Scrum principles, and your extreme programming principles are extremely important from the exam perspective. There are 7 principles for lean, 12 for extreme programming, and 12 for your Scrum, right? You need to know all that. You need to know all that at all cost. All right. Working together to jointly produce a deliverable. It's paired programming. Within paired programming, you will have one person writing the code, another person sitting adjacent and watching the code. In this way, I'm ensuring that the peer review of the code happens immediately. I fix the issues immediately. So if people feel that, having 2 people do the job of one is waste of time, then think about this. Anyways, the code which you write is going to undergo thorough testing, would be reviewed, right? What if I get those 2 things done at one go? Am I not saving time? Ultimately, you'll get a good quality product at a faster pace. That is the advantage of pair programming. The person who writes the code is called as pilot. The person who just sits adjacent to that person and watches or reviews the code is called as navigator. Think about flight. There would be a pilot and a navigator. But in extreme programming, what we do is probably for one iteration, person A would do the coding, person B would be the navigator. These 2 folks are going to switch their roles in the second iteration. In this way, we are ensuring that the knowledge transfer happens. People learn multiple things. What is coordination? Coordination is nothing but sharing the information. Example, team meets to develop a release plan to collectively make a series of decisions, backlog items, estimating, and things like that. All right. Let us move on. Adaptive leadership. Your ability to adapt to the changing environment is extremely important. It's not the toughest, it's not the wisest people who survive. People who survive are the people who adapt quickly to the changing environment. Different organizations have different cultures, different structures. Who is going to survive in the race? Person who is quickly going to adapt. Not the strongest, not the wisest. If that was the case, dinosaurs should have been existing now instead of human beings, right? So, extremely important, adaptive leadership. This is a 2-dimensional leadership style, which includes doing agile and being agile. Right? There are 3 concepts in being agile. Incremental delivery or development. That means at the end of each iteration, I'll give you some working product, some code which is working, some functionality which is working. Continuous integration. At the end of each iteration, I'm going to get some code, right? Or a product, a functionality of a product. At the end of second iteration, I'll get some more functionality. So I'm going to combine these 2 and do testing once again. If I have third iteration and if I have another functionality there, I'm going to combine this new functionality with iteration 1, 2 functionalities, right? Let me explain that here. Say this is my project. My project would be divided into what? Releases. Say I have 3 releases, release 1, release 2, and release 3. Each release would be further subdivided into iterations. Say I'm dividing each release into 4 iterations. Iteration 1, iteration 2, iteration 3, and iteration 4. At the end of each iteration, I'll get some features or functionalities complete. At the end of second iteration, I'll also I'm going to get some of a few more features. I combine these two features and perform an integration testing. At the end of iteration 3, I'll get another feature or functionality. Then I'm going to combine these three and perform integration test. I'm continuously going to integrate, and also I'm going to perform testing on that. Last thing is adapting to changing environment. If at all customer comes to me with any change whatsoever, I'm going to embrace the change. I will say, please do that. We welcome change in agile projects, but add this change to the product backlog, to the list of requirements. I would not allow you to make changes to the iteration. Right? Your agile coach will step in and say, hey, customer, if you want to make changes, you're free to do so, but do it in the product backlog. You'll have product backlog. From that, you are going to pick up few backlogs for your release. Backlog is nothing but collection of requirements. Requirements are also called as user stories in agile, right? You have this product backlog. It has all the user stories for all the releases for your entire project. And this is prioritized by a product owner based on value which it can deliver. From these, you pick up a few user stories for release, right? And release is divided into iterations. So once again, iteration backlog will be smaller than release backlog. Maybe each release have 2 or 3 iterations. So I'm going to pick a few, put it in my iteration backlog, and try to complete those. If at all there is any change from the customer, he's going to add to this product backlog. Nowhere else. Now it gets prioritized, and if it's of high priority, high value, high risk, it will be on the top. You pick it for your completion. All right. What do you mean by doing agile? Do less. Is agile asking us to do less? What do you mean by do less? Do less means project team should do the simplest thing in order to address the customer problem. Maintain the code simple. Maintain the solution simple. Don't overdo. Whatever features you are expected to complete, complete only those. Simplicity, the art of work not done, is essential, right? Art of work not done is essential, right? We know that the amount of work not done will get maximized in agile. We know that, we have learned about that. Speed to value, what does that mean? Look at these 3 objectives: value, quality, and constraint. What are the constraints? Schedule, cost, and scope. It is also called as iron triangle. Right? There would be few intrinsic things like technical debt. Technical debt means, guys, do you remember technical debt? What is technical debt? Amit, Madhuri, what do you mean by technical debt? See, in an agile project, suppose this is a project, it would be divided into releases. Release 1, 2, 3, so on and so forth. Each release is going to have, once again, iterations within that. Iterations, right? Each iteration, at the end of each iteration, you'll get some feature or functionality which is completely tested, right? And which is good to go to the customer. Now, after the end of 2 or 3 iterations, maybe I'm postponing an activity of ensuring that my code is even more effective. At the end of iteration, I'll get code. I'll get another piece of code, another piece of code. I integrate that. All that is fine. I'll integrate and do the integration testing. That is fine. However, I need to relook into the code quality as well, on whether the code is simple to use or not, and is there any technical are there any technical challenges, right, which I need to fix? Are the if-else loops multiple, right? Are the operators and operands many? And is it so confusing? Is my comments per line of code properly written or not? So I'm going to relook into all this. At the end of 2 or 3 iterations, one particular iteration, I'm going to spend only addressing that technical debt. So what is technical debt? Something which I'm carrying with me all along without addressing that. So I write the code. If at all there is any chance of modifying the code and making it even better, I do not do so because I do not have time. I need to get started with iteration 2. Then at the end of iteration 2, I feel that, you know what, code can be further modified, further made simple and robust. But I do not have time, I carry on because the third iteration is getting started. So all these work which is getting accumulated is the debt that you're carrying along. You need to address that. All right, so platform experience, quality configuration, design, all that is fine. NPV stands for net present value. I'm sure you are aware of NPV, net present value. Revenue generating cost, risk reduction, learning, and all that. Now, speed to value means, we were discussing this, right? The 3 components of Agile triangle. You need to manage properly all these 3 to realize the value, to realize some business value to the customer. Third thing is quality. In doing Agile, the third thing is quality. Quality means managing the technical debt, which, if not addressed correctly, would lead to high cost and risk. The last thing is engage and inspire. Leadership should encourage and promote the concept of self-organizing team that have autonomy, mastery, and purpose, basically. So what are you doing here? You're giving them, you're empowering them, and then you're giving them additional responsibilities. You're asking them to self-organize. That means there is no one to manage them. They manage themselves. There is no project manager to boss upon them, right? They take their own decision when it comes to the technical stuff and things like that. That is extremely important. Negotiation, the next skill. Negotiation means what? Discussion which is intended to produce agreement and is fundamental to every software project. Developers and customers must reach agreement on what the system is supposed to do, the software system basically. And a wise agreement will define achievable goals and meet the user's real needs. Goals should be achievable. Remember this definition, SMART. What does SMART stand for? Your goals should be specific, they should be measurable, achievable, relevant, and time bound. You need to understand this abbreviation, extremely important from exam perspective. And you have this popular approach called principled negotiation, which contains 4 elements. What are those? Separate people from the problem. Don't be biased and prejudiced, right? You need to focus on the problem, right? If there is a mistake, there is a mistake with the process. It's not the mistake because of people, basically, right? Think about that. Focus interest, not position. Negotiation is a process in which 2 or more parties who are in conflict want to achieve a mutually acceptable solution, right? Focus on the project interest. Don't focus on the position. Just because there's a conflict between a developer and a project manager or a vice president does not mean you're going to support vice president. Support the cause, not the position. That's principal negotiation. Second element of that. The third thing is invent option for mutual gain. Bring a win-win situation, because successful negotiation can only be called when both parties are in win-win situation. So any option, any decision that you're taking should be mutually beneficial, and use objective criteria. Don't bring in the subjectivity. What do you mean by subjectivity? If I say I'm going to deliver a product of high quality, am I being subjective or objective? Yeah, can someone say me? If I make the statement that I'm going to ensure that the product quality is high, what does that mean? Am I being subjective or objective?
It's objective.
No, it's actually subjective, right? I'm telling I'm going to deliver you high quality product. That is called as being subjective. Objective means I need some numbers to back that. In objective, I'll say there will be 0 defects in the product. That is objective. If I say I'm going to deliver your project faster, faster means being subjective. What is the definition of faster? Faster definition for me might vary from a faster definition of yours. Objective means I'm going to deliver your project by 20th of November or before 20th of November. That is objective now. I have a date, I have a deadline available, right? That is objective. If you are able to put your point objectively, then it's easier to be agreed upon. If you say I'll deliver you project with low cost, your customer might not buy in that argument. But if you say I'll try to complete the project within your budget of $1 million, now that is objective. If you have objective criteria, it is it's easy for you to push that. Suresh, I see that you have unmuted yourself. Any questions?
No, nothing is there.
All right, yeah. So here's the next topic. Conflict resolution. There are various reasons for conflicts, right? You need to ask married couple on what are the reasons of conflicts. They can write a book on that. So here are a few of the reasons of conflicts. Lack of clarity. The communication between the parties is missing information, right? Or the information is not being communicated in a consistent manner. That is a major reason. There won't be clarity because the two parties, customer and the developers, basically do not communicate between themselves. Second thing is positions focus or position focus. The parties involved have already each decided on their own solution. Customer has already decided on his solution. Developers have decided their own solution. And the failing to discuss the problem, right? And they also fail to discuss the problem the solutions are going to address. There is no interaction basically once again here also. Different values. I always argue on this, right? Indian freedom basically. Mahatma Gandhi had different values. Bhagat Singh had different values, right? And both parties were unable to agree because they are holding different sets of values. And they are not articulating those values as part of the discussion. Conflicts. Past and history personalities. The parties have a previous unresolved conflict. Previously, we could not resolve that. This is a new project. We carry those conflicts along with us. And it is going to negatively affect the ability to work together. If you have a conflict, resolve it. If you're going to live with that, that is only going to make the things worse. Here are the various conflict management techniques, which are also common in your project management, PMP basically. Confronting means if there is an issue which is going on between two team members, you have seen that as an agile coach. Assume you have seen that as an agile coach. Confronting means you don't just see and wait and watch. You walk up to them and ask each person on what their problem is, listen to both sides of the coin, and then come up with a solution which is going to benefit your project, not the individual. Find out the root cause and address it. By you stepping in, not waiting for them to come and complain you, right? You have seen that there's a problem going on. You go and solve the problem, even before the problem becomes worse. Second conflict resolution technique is compromising. Can someone give me real life example on compromising? Some real life example on compromising? Now don't say me that you do not compromise at all, right? In every walk of our life, we compromise. Marriage is a classic example, right? Both parties compromise few things and feel that they are happy compromising. This is also called as lose-lose situation. Both parties are losing something and then still getting along. That's called as compromising, right? Or you'll strike a middle balance basically. You're not going to focus on meeting your project objectives. You'll focus on coming to a common conclusion based on the differences that both parties possess. Not a good sign at all. Sorry. Next thing is withdrawal. One person will not be willing to speak. In all cases, it would be the husband basically, right? Withdrawal. You withdraw from the discussion. So if you withdraw and if you do not want to discuss about the conflict, then this is the worst technique that you can follow. You're not even discussing about that. Next thing is smoothing. What do you mean by smoothing? Smoothing means you play safe basically. If you have differences of opinion with your boss, you do not speak about the differences. You speak about only those things which you agree with your boss. Say there are 5 points that you and your boss have been discussing, and you agree with point 3, 4, and 5. You agree with your boss. So you always speak about the smoothing, but you do not want to speak about these two which you do not agree. You just leave that smoothing. Next thing is collaborating. Everyone together, we are going to come up with a common solution which is going to benefit the project. I listen to all the parties and we all together come to a common conclusion. That is collaborating. What do you mean by forcing? I am vice president of the organization. I say you do. Or think about your wives basically, right? They force things onto you. That is called as forcing. These are the various conflict resolution techniques which are available. There is another technique, right? So it's visible on your screen now. Here also there are 5 levels, conflict resolution levels basically. Level 1 is collaboration basically. Here is level 1, collaboration. You always try to solve a problem to arrive at a win-win situation. Everyone's suggestion is heard here and you try to reach a consensus, level 1. That means the problem is at an initial level now, right? Think about this. If you have a baby cub, when I say baby cub, baby tiger cub or lion cub, right? When they are extremely small, they are the most cutest creatures on the planet. You like to play with them and things like that, right? Cuddle with them and all that, right? If you do not tame it properly, can you play with it Can you cuddle with it 6 months down the lane? You cannot do, right? That level 1 issue, if you are not going to fix it here, it's going to become a level 5 issue, a world war basically. You cannot solve the problem at all. So when the issue is small, when the conflicts are small, fix them. If you leave it aside, they are only going to grow in size. All right, so be aware of that. Second thing is level 2. In level 2, there is disagreement between the two parties. Self-protection becomes an important part of your life and not solving the problem. Team needs some help to bring the party to discussion. Two parties you need to discuss, there should be some mediator who brings two parties together to solve the problem. That is level 2. Right? Then comes level 3, contest. Either you win or I win. Right? People begin to align themselves with one side or the other. Right? Entire team will either support you or support me. Accommodation means one must encourage them for negotiation, right? That is how you try to solve those problems. You try to accommodate. One should or one must encourage them to negotiate, not fight upon that. And another technique is negotiation, basically. Negotiation will not work when the issue resolves or revolves around people's values. Was there a common conclusion between Mahatma Gandhi and Bhagat Singh? No. When you deal with the people's value and not a common goal of achieving probably independence, right? That was our ultimate goal. If you do not work towards achieving that, and if you work towards achieving your own people values or your own values, then you cannot get into negotiation. I'm sorry if anyone is a fan of Mahatma Gandhi, right? I'm not. All right, level 4. Crusade. That means people say either you or me. That's it. I don't want a solution to this. People think remove other or get me removed from this project. Right? So you get into that crusade mode. And level 5, do whatever is required. You cannot prevent it. Destruction, world war, destruction basically. Now there's a lot of hue and cry around South China Sea. I'm not sure you guys are aware of that or not. There are a lot of reefs which Philippines, Vietnam, and Japan claim it's theirs in their territory, in their respective territories. But China says no. Those are those reefs and entire South China Sea belongs to us. And they've started pouring a lot of sand from the ocean to the reefs, and they're constructing small islands over there. There are a lot of airports also there. So there is a lot of conflict going on there. It might lead to world war, right? So it's slowly increasing. America is pitching in. They are making strong statements. Your Secretary of Security, who is he? Ashton Carter, I believe his name, the new person, right? He is making strong statements by going to important conferences in South Asia and all that. But not sure whether that's going to solve the problem or not. All right, so that's a level 5 world war, right? Destroy. I want the other person to be destroyed at all cost. It's not enough if I win the race. Others must lose, right? Do whatever is necessary to prevent people from hurting one another. But it's extreme case basically. All right. Next thing is servant leadership. We have learned about this. Agile coach or scrum masters are servant first, leaders next. I constantly keep giving this example, right? If your team member says or calls you and says, hey, Mr. Agile Coach, so let me tell you what is Agile Coach and Scrum Master, right? If you are using, there are multiple Agile flavors available. You all are aware of that. You have extreme programming, you have DSDM Atern ATARN, that's the latest DSDM version. You have Agile Unified Programming, Essential Unified Programming, Scrum, and things like that. In Scrum, you call the person as Scrum Master, the person who will up upkeep your principles, basically Agile principles. He's called as your Scrum Master in Scrum. In Extreme Programming, DSDM Agile or Agile Unified Programming, in all the other places, you call that person as Coach or Agile Coach, basically, right? So if you call up Agile Coach and say, hey, I need a leave today because I need to do babysitting. My wife is not keeping well, so I need to do babysitting. I need leave. So what should your Agile Coach or Scrum Master say? Do not worry. You come to office. I go take care of your baby there. I'm going to change the diapers for your baby. You are more required to be here working, right? Getting me, you are a servant first, leader next, right? So these are the various characteristics. Listening. 80% of the problems get resolved if you are a good listener. Just lend your ear, that's it. If any of your team members come to you with a problem, just lend your ear. That is going to solve majority of the problem. Empathy. Don't just sympathize, empathize with the people. Don't just say, oh, I'm sorry about the situation that you're in, but try to solve. That is empathy. Healing, awareness, persuasion, conceptualization, foresight, forward looking always as a leader, as a servant leader. Stewardship. What does that mean? Stewardship. Conducting, supervising, and managing something, right? Especially the careful and responsible management of something, right? Which is entrusted to one's care. If people are relying on you that you are going to take care of the team, you should be able to supervise and manage it properly. You should be extremely careful and responsible about the job given to you of managing the team. Commitment to the growth of the people. Don't just commit on your own growth as leaders, commit on other people's growth. If your team grows, you would automatically grow. And building a community, basically. Not the religious communities, but your own community, right? Of Agile, basically. All right. Next thing is all about knowledge and skills, level 1. I'm going to just quickly stop here for 2 minutes. So in Agile or PMI ACP exam, there are 3 levels of knowledge and skills. Most of the knowledge and skills concepts we might have already discussed in the class. But if at all we have missed any, we will relook into that. Active listening is extremely important. Focus, attention, and encourage, basically, the speaker, right? If someone is speaking, do not look into all 4 corners of the wall, right? Instead, focus. Make encouraging statements or sounds such as, yes, understand, that's interesting, I see, and things like that. If you do not know anything, you can probably say, that's a surprise for me, I didn't know this earlier, right? Take notes. If you start taking notes at a later point of time, you know that you have captured the ideas and you can probably discuss with the speaker at a later point of time, or your Scrum Master or Agile Coach at a later point of time, rather than interrupting them, right? So this is one more good thing about active listening. When someone is speaking, listen, take a note, don't interrupt him because his flow might be disturbed. Instead, talk to him and ask him your doubts at a later time. Madhuri, do you have any questions? I see that you have unmuted yourself.
No, nothing.
Nothing? All right. The next thing is paraphrasing. What do you mean by paraphrasing? If I'm going to explain your concept, You put that concept in your own words and repeat. That is called as paraphrasing, right? It is not what you do in paraphrase. You're going to speak in your own words, right? Speaking in your own words and repeating the statement that I've made in your own words is listening. It is not speaking, or it is not verbal mode of communication. Yeah, pay close attention to that. This is not verbal communication, paraphrasing. It's listening mode of communication. And the last thing is summarizing. What is summarizing? I listen to the entire discussion and I say, hey, I have these top 3 or 4 points which I understand from the discussion. And then you start summarizing that. All right. Next knowledge and skill is brainstorming. Brainstorming is nothing but bringing group of people together to achieve a common objective. Say you have a problem, you want to solve that. You bring your entire team into a single room for discussion. One key thing to understand is that whatever solution people give, you'll have to just record it. There might be 1,000 ideas that might come your way. Record all 1,000 ideas. There might be foolish ideas or stupid ideas, right? You need to still write down those. You cannot criticize a person saying that, hey, that's a foolish idea. That's a foolish solution for this problem. Never ever criticize. The moment you criticize one person, other people would not open up. Other people will say, hey, if I'm going to come up with a solution, probably he's going to shame me before the crowd. Better let me be calm, quiet. So don't bring in that culture in brainstorming, right? Write down whatever idea people threw. And who knows? The idea which you thought was foolish or stupid might turn out to be the most brilliant idea. All right. So there are 2 principles here. Defer your judgment. Don't quickly jump in and say, hey, okay, I got the solution. No. And reach for quantity. You need more and more ideas. You don't want quality here. Quality idea solutions. You want more quantity. All right. And 4 general rules of brainstorming. Focus on quantity, not on quality. The more ideas you get, the better it is. Do not criticize anyone's ideas. Welcome unusual ideas. Your beautiful brains, right, who will be almost always quiet in the room, right? They might come up with those unusual ideas, which might be the best idea for you. Combine and improve the ideas. For example, if someone is traveling to US, or someone is traveling from US to India, assume, and say he is planning to visit Taj Mahal, then there is a brainstorming. Suppose there's a brainstorming happening. 5 folks from US are planning to come to India and visit Taj Mahal. Probably another person might say, hey, let us go and visit Leh Ladakh. Let us do some trekking. Few other people might say, hey, do you know what? While we go to Taj Mahal, we can also visit the capital city of India. So what is happening here? People are building upon each other's ideas. If you want to go to Tirupati from here, for example, another person might say, hey, do you know what? Srikalahasti is also near to Tirupati, so let us go there, visit that, and come back to Tirupati. So you improve, you build on each other's ideas. That's the good part about brainstorming. Here we have a few other guidelines. Host a meeting in a neutral and comfortable environment. Don't be biased towards a section of people. Engage experienced facilitator. If your brainstorming session is facilitated by one of the team members, what happens? He might be biased. He might be biased in the sense he might give more opportunity for his own people to speak up, and people with whom he does not get along well, he might not give them equal opportunity. So ensure that there is an experienced facilitator. Most Recommended thing is have an external facilitator, someone who is outside your project. Send participant beforehand. What do you need to send them? Overview, goal, schedule, ground rules of the meeting and all that. Have multidisciplinary, diverse team to get broader perspective. What is agile team? It is cross-functional. For the very reason that it is cross-functional, this multidisciplinary or diverse team concept is already inbuilt. Delay any criticism that may stifle idea generation. Don't criticize anyone's starts. All right, the next thing is building empowered team. What do you mean by empowered? Giving them the authority to take their own decisions. Right? They should not always rely on you, come to you and say, hey, Mr. Scrum Master or Agile Coach, please help me with this. They should themselves take the decision, empower them. Only if you empower an agile team, you'll get the true benefits. Right? What are the key to success? Clearly define the boundaries. Give team members a range, right? Don't give them a number saying, I want you guys to complete 5 user stories. I want you guys to complete anywhere between 3 to 5 user stories. You're defining boundaries, but you're giving them a range. That's a good part. Provide support frequently. As a leader, support the team as and when your team requires it. When team is in the bad situation, when team takes a bad decision, approach them with positive tone. Do not reprimand them saying that, hey, I knew that you guys will not do a good job. Unnecessarily, I have empowered you. Do not ever make such statements. Right? Provide support. If they are in trouble, provide support. That is what you are paid for as managers, as agile coaches, right? Follow up with the progress report. We want to measure the progress, right? And empower the team so that, they themselves start preparing these progress reports. Next thing is summary. Empowered people care more, right? If you're going to say that, hey, this is your company, your project, your baby, they'll feel empowered and they're going to start working accordingly and they'll achieve the impossible task for you. Act immediately with feedback. Positive, constructive feedback is going to help your team members and it's going to help them make better decisions. Leaders can lead, right? What is the difference between lead versus manage? Manage means we are managing real-time functions of the team, right? When you're leaving this part to the team, then it's free for us to do other types of things, such as leadership type of things, right? You'll be able to focus on the future vision of the organization. How to achieve that vision. You'll be focusing on that. If you start focusing on managing your people, micromanaging them, when are you going to focus on the development of the organization, of the firm and things like that, right? All right, that is all about, this is extremely theoretical, okay? These are the type of teams that we have: real team, potential, and pseudo team, working group. What is a working group? What do you mean by a working group? The people here, the members in this, interact primarily to share the information, best practices, or perspectives of each other, things like that. In working group, basically. Pseudo team. Did anyone hear about pseudo team? This is a group for which there could be a significant incremental performance need or opportunity. But this team does not focus on collective performance and is not really trying to achieve it. So it has no interest in, shaping a common purpose basically. And pseudo teams are the weakest of all groups in terms of performance impact. They're not impacted by the performance dip basically. Potential team. This is a significant team. Incremental performance is required here. And this team really tries to improve its performance impact. Right? And the last thing is the real team. Real teams are a basic unit of performance basically, right? The possible performance impact of the real team is significantly higher than your working group. These are basically the type of teams that you have. Okay? And agile team stages. Shu ha ri. Follow the rule, break the rule, be the rule. What does that mean? Break the rule. We have a book, by the way, right? Break all rules. Not sure whether you have heard that or not. All right. So let us understand this. This is a good model of mastering anything in martial arts, basically. If you want to learn martial arts, these are the 3 stages that they're going to teach you in martial arts. First thing is for the beginner copies the techniques without any alteration. You are going to follow the rule. That means if you have agile principles, you're just going to follow them word by word. The second stage is breaking the rule. HA means having reached the stage, means student now has deeper knowledge and can instruct someone and can alter the rule based on their experience. That is breaking the rule basically. Right? And the third thing is re, shu ha re. Right? What is re? Here it is. Be the rule basically. Now in this stage, moves are part of the students. Students are now learning and progressing more through self-discovery than instruction. I'm not going to instruct the team on what to do, what not to do, right? So whenever you're going to hire an agile team, they start off here. They follow the rules that you set. Later on, they try to break the rules, bring in their own rules. But that is based on their experience. And the last thing is, they will be the rule. They are going to explore more stages, innovative ways of dealing, right? So here are a few of the things. Now, how to build an empowered team? Set and meet the team expectations. Meet them, set the expectations, move on. Don't do micromanagement. Trust them that they are going to get the job done. You need to basically be a theory Y manager, right? Responsibility. Give them the responsibility required. You'll not give them complete responsibility, but you'll give them the responsibility to perform their day-to-day activities. Remove the blame culture. If the team fails, do not go jump in and say, hey, you guys are fit for nothing, you'll not do, and things like that. Instead, motivate them. Say, this is the learning phase, do not worry, and move on. Coaching and mentoring. Coach comes from an old Anglo-Saxon, which means carriage. What is coaching? Coaching is art of facilitating the performance, learning and development of another people, of others basically. Helping someone do his or her best, right? And things like that. It basically closes the gap between thinking and doing. So this is all about coaching and mentoring. As part of coaching, right, you coach the team on the agile principles. You coach the team on the importance of being on time for daily stand-up meeting. You try to remove the obstacles and you set goal basically. Next thing is communication management. Act of transmitting information between individuals, among the various individuals, right? In Agile, you continuously have this communication. By the way, communication happens right from the day you're born. If a baby is hungry, how do they communicate with you? By crying, right? They communicate. If your kids are unhappy with you, they'll not speak with you, right? And if your wife is unhappy, no food for you. So they communicate without speaking also. That happens. And here we have communication planning. In Agile, communication happens on an ongoing basis. How does it happen? You're ensuring that the team size is small, not extremely small, but 7 plus or minus 2 for Scrum projects. This is the team that you're looking at, so in the range of 5 to 9. To ensure that communication happens throughout, you're ensuring that the team is co-located and ensuring that the communication happens throughout. You're ensuring that the customer stays at your location and ensuring that the communication happens throughout. You're ensuring that if the team is distributed, if not co-located, then you're ensuring that you're having high-end video camera, video conferences, common chat window to stay in constant communication, right? You have daily stand-up meetings. You communicate with each other. You'll have iteration reviews, retrospectives, plannings, in which you communicate with everyone. In this way, this communication planning, it's extremely robust in agile projects. You cannot do away with the communication, even if you dislike people. Feedback, right? Find out how it went, learn from your mistakes, change if something is required. And this process goes on and on and on and on. Plan, do, check, act, basically. All right, what are the various feedback loops when it comes to extreme programming? You do paired programming, so two people sit beside each other and they're going to constantly review the code. I write the code, someone is reviewing. So I receive instant feedback. Unit testing, if I'm doing some testing, if there is going to be a defect, I'll be notified about that. I'm going to once again. That's a feedback, right? If I'm getting a defect, that means something is not good. I'm receiving a feedback in that. Continuous integration. Say this is the project. I divide the project into multiple releases. Say 3 releases, R1, 2, and 3. Each release is once again divided into iterations. 3 iterations each. Say iteration 1, iteration 2, and iteration 3. At the end of each iteration, I'm going to get a functionality or feature or software code which is complete. At the end of iteration 2, I'll get another piece of code. I integrate these two and do a testing. So there is continuous integration. The moment I integrate, if there is any mistake or error, I'll come to know immediately, right? So once again, I'm getting feedback. Daily stand-up meetings. Right? What happens in daily stand-up meetings? I ask 3 questions. What did you do yesterday? What are you going to do today? What are your challenges or impediments or roadblocks or issues? Right? Ask these 3 questions. What did you do yesterday? What are you going to do today? And what are your challenges? Again, I receive feedback. Iteration review. At the end of my iteration, I'll get my product or code reviewed by the customer and all the other relevant stakeholders. I get a feedback once again. In Scrum, I have daily Scrums, sprint demos, and all that. Sprint demo or iteration review mean the same, basically, right? So you'll continuously get the feedback. Prototype. I can develop a small working product or working software, small working software. That's a prototype. I show it to the customer and take a feedback. Simulation. If I do not have historical information in place, I'm going to simulate data. Okay, think about this. If there is a new vehicle car which is going to be launched in the market, and say they are saying that we are going to or our vehicle will provide you 40 kilometers per liter mileage car. Do you think they are going to manufacture their car? They're going to take it on the road. They're going to drive it along, see how the suspension is, what the air pressure should be. And do you think they do all that? No, right? They do that in the test environment. They simulate the situation, right? They simulate and check what if the vehicle has air pressure of 30 psi? What if the vehicle has air pressure of 40? Right? What if the air pressure is 36? What if I'm traveling at a speed of 80 miles per hour? Things like that. So they check all that. Code reviews. As part of code reviews, I get review comments. That's a feedback. Automated integration testing. If that happens, I get defects, feedback, acceptance tests. Is my product meeting your requirements or not? I get a feedback. Your customers and experts sit with you in agile projects. They are in constant touch with you. Hence, you get a feedback once again. And then we have incremental delivery. Incremental delivery means at the end of each sprint or iteration, I have a working product, a working software. And that is the measure of progress in sprint or in agile projects, right? How do you measure the project progress? Based on the working software. At the end of each iteration or sprint, you will be given working software, right? And you're going to do that at the end of each iteration or at the end of each sprint if it is Scrum. For all the agile flavors, you call it as iterations. Incremental delivery. What are the various advantages of incremental delivery? Working in order of business priority. Features most important will be delivered first. Risk mitigation. Biggest risk is not technical. It is that you don't deliver business value or you deliver wrong system. That is the biggest risk in agile. Since you are delivering in short duration and receiving feedback in short time, right? You're mitigating the associated business risk. Aren't you doing that? At the end of each iteration or sprint, you give customer a working product. Unlike your waterfall model projects, right? In which your customer will be able to see the end product or service at the end of the project. Unlike that, in Agile, at the end of each iteration, you give them some working product to look at. So you receive immediate feedback. That's a good part. Early delivery. As in how the features are completed, I'm giving you those features so that you might realize your return on investment sooner. Flexible delivery. I'm asking customer to prioritize those features which are extremely important for him or her. Right? I'm giving them a provision to upload or update the new requirements in the product backlog. And I'm saying that I'm going to pick up the top few user stories or requirements from this and put it into my iteration backlog. If you're using Scrum methodology, you call this iteration backlog as sprint backlog, basically. All right, next thing is knowledge sharing. Knowledge sharing is extremely important. Knowledge sharing is encouraged by several practices. How? As part of release planning, everyone come together and do the planning. So along with that, when I say along with that, along with your team, your developers, there would also be on-site customer available, right? So you're going to interact with your on-site customer to come up with the release plan. And in that way, knowledge sharing happens between the business people and your developers. Second thing is paired programming. Yeah, knowledge sharing happens throughout paired programming. One person writes the code, another person reviews it. If I see a problem or a mistake, I immediately suggest. Another person might be having better programming skills, better way of writing simple code. So when the other person writes the code, the person who is a pilot sits in the navigator position and listens to that. What is pilot? What is navigator? Pilot is a person who actually works on the code. Navigator is a person who is going to review the code at the same time. Two people at one go execute a piece of command. Daily stand-up meetings, right? This is a way of sharing your knowledge. What did I do yesterday? What am I going to do today? And what are the challenges or impediments which I face? And the next thing is retrospective. Retrospective means at the end of each iteration, I sit down and analyze three things. What are those three things? Start doing something, stop doing something, and continue doing something which you are doing well. That is all about your iteration or sprint retrospective. And the next thing is cross-functional team. As we very well know, agile teams are cross-functional. Means you will have developers, testers, business analysts, right, and technical architects, all these people on one project. And if you're sitting together and if you all are in constant touch with each other, obviously knowledge sharing would happen continuously. So within agile, knowledge sharing is something which is embedded. Leadership tools and techniques. Directing. What do you mean by directing? Telling others what they need to do. Facilitating. Coordinating only with the input of others. Brainstorming basically. Coaching. Instructing others clearly. Supporting. Providing assistance along the way to do work. Autocratic. Making decisions on who owns something without any input. Think about your wives basically, right? Job done. Autocratic dictators basically. Consultative. Inviting ideas from others before taking decision. Consensus. We all together come to a common forum and we are going to finalize on a common objective. Common way of doing things. Right? That is called as consensus. Here are a few other leadership tools and techniques. Agile leadership requires following democratic approach. India, US, democratic countries. Yep. Here are a few of the leadership techniques. Transfer certain power to the team members. With complete power comes complete destruction. So we are not going to give the team members complete power. We will give them power to take decisions when it comes to writing code, when it comes to selecting the features which they wish to accomplish in a particular iteration. You empower the team through self-organization and commitment to results. Demonstrate greater openness to ideas and innovations. You clearly define the desired vision and to ensure alignment with the overall project objective. Provide necessary support and resources to the team. Become a change agent. Not LIC agent, right? Become a change agent. Within the organization, right? You need to become a change agent by accepting and publicly endorsing ideas. Systematically involve people in the definition of the solutions, in the execution of the solutions, right? These are the leadership tools. We know we have product backlog, Product backlog is owned by the product owner or the customer representative. He is going to prioritize the list of requirements here based on value and risk that a particular feature or functionality can deliver. Okay, so here are a few of the leadership tools which we have. We have product backlog, which is managed by the product owner, which is also prioritized based on the value and risk associated with each requirement. In Agile, requirements are also called as user stories. And you have velocity. What is velocity? The speed at which your team works. Within an iteration or within a sprint, how many user stories or story points I'm able to accomplish. And that is called as velocity, the speed at which I work. You have burn down and burn up charts, which are also called as information radiators, right? These are another way of looking into your tools or looking into the progress. We prioritize the requirements using Moscow and Kano model. Not sure whether you are aware of this or not, right? Do you remember, guys? M stands for must have features, S stands for should have, could have, won't have, and the Kano model in which you have delighters, basically, and the must haves and things like that. Fat slip. These are the wasteful or the weak features coming from all directions, which you have filtered out in prioritization, basically. This does not happen in your waterfall models. You'll pull in requirements left, right, and center, changes left, right, and center, and incorporate those without giving a thought on what is the business value it's going to give you, right? These are the various folks who will look into all these things. Let us move on to the next slide. So here we have 4 basic steps in problem solving. Define the problem, generate the alternatives. What do you mean by generate alternatives? Right, so Amit, I believe you're married, right?
Yeah, yes.
So you know the next question that I'm going to
Yes,
ask
Kumar.
you, right? So was your wife the only person whom you have seen and
Yes.
finalized, or have you looked into alternatives?
I no, in my case there was no alternative, so I was fine with
So,
the first one.
so yeah, I know. All right. So what do you mean by generating alternatives? Suppose I want to purchase a mobile phone, right? I'm going to look into various alternatives, right? Apple iPhone versus Samsung. I'm going to put them against each other head on and look into the various features. What is the battery life? What is the price going to be? What is the operating system? How many free applications do I have? And I'll put points against each of those. Based on that, I'm going to pick up the solution which best fits me. This is also called as Pew matrix. Pew matrix. In CMMI terms, it is called as DAR, Decision Analysis and Resolution, which is part of CMMI level 3, I believe. Right? Once you generate the alternatives, you evaluate those and select one alternative which best fits you. And you implement that solution. Right? What are the various tools which you can use? 5Y. You can use appreciation. Appreciation is similar to your 5Y technique, basically. And the major difference is that it is often used to get information out of a simple fact or statement, while your 5Y is specifically designed to drill down to the root of the problem. That's the difference, basically, right? For example, appreciation example could be something like this. You have just found out that your department budget is going to be cut by 25% next year. This is a huge cut. And you want to make sure that your uncovered, that you have uncovered all the implications, right, before you start to brainstorm possible solutions. So that is how you get started with your appreciation process, right? What is the statement? Our department's budget is going to be cut 25% from next year. So what? So the only way to accommodate that cut is to reduce our spendings dramatically. So what? So we are probably going to have to cut the staff. So what? Staff morale is probably going to drop, right? So what? So I'll need to come up with plenty of low cost ways to boost the morale of the team. So what? So I'll need to start thinking about this tomorrow, right? Things like that. So that is the difference between your 5 why and appreciation, right? In appreciation, you have a simple fact or a statement based on which you get started asking questions. But in 5 why analysis, you have a specific problem and you need to identify the root cause of that. Right? Root cause analysis or fishbone diagram in the scene. Remember the tool which I've used to recap in the trainings, that is the mind map tool. Affinity diagram, you know that cause and effect diagram is nothing but root cause analysis, and then the flow chart. So here are all these. Here is 5 why analysis. Ask something 5 times. This is a typical mind map. I've used FreeMind to do the recap for y'all. Affinity diagram, grouping related ideas together. This diagram here is a fishbone diagram. Effect is at the head of the fish, and these are all the bones, right? And these are all the causes for the major categories such as people, methods, environment. All these are your major categories. All right, and here you have your flow chart, which is going to say how your process is going to flow and things like that. I'm not doing a deep dive on this because that is not required. All right, project and quality standard for Agile project. Agile software development standards. Do something beyond your formatting, right? Come up with some standards, not just related to the formatting. Create your coding format as well. All right, let me quickly make a small change here. There are a few spelling mistakes here and there. Can probably get rid of that. Sorry for that. So let me remove one. Yeah, let me see that. You need to create a minimal set of standards which you can live with. Focus on consistency and consensus over perfection. You cannot reach perfection in a short period of time. It will take some time. Right? Here are a few examples on how to achieve that. All right, so I'll move on. Adhering to the standard is extremely important. People often make mistakes, but we can catch and rectify those. Using pair programming, then and there you can fix the problem. Collective code ownership. If I'm bringing in this culture of collective code ownership, then I'm saying that if there is a defect in the product, entire team would be responsible for that. Right? I'm going to reward or reprimand the entire team. If you say that, then everyone would collectively own the code, thereby ensuring that all the defects are fixed. Use automated tools because at the end of each iteration, you're going to have new features or functionalities. And you need to combine them and run testing once again. Automated tools. Agile quality standard. Is it possible to follow an agile process and still comply with the process and quality standards such as ISO 9001? Telecom industry, if you're working in that, then it is TL 9000, right? Or CMMI. What do you think, guys? Is it possible for me to follow agile process and still comply with the organization standards? What do you think? Or what is your thought process around this statement?
Kumar, I believe it's possible, but it requires a lot of compliance.
Yeah.
That has to be.
Your answer is right, Amit, on that. Your answer is right. Following Agile does not mean you have a waiver from following other organization standards, right? You have to still comply with the process and quality standards, and you can do so. All these standards and frameworks have an element of Agile within that. Agile processes are somewhere mentioned in this. So you will have to follow, by the way. Stakeholder management, extremely important. Agile software development, lean thinking, lean software development, and the TPS, Toyota Production System, all have a set of founding principles. What are those? These are the 10 principles when it comes to stakeholder management. Stakeholder interests need to go together over time. We need a philosophy of volunteerism. That means in order to engage the stakeholders and manage the relationships ourselves rather than leave it to the government or the governance team. We need to find solutions to issues that satisfy multiple stakeholders simultaneously. That's a challenge, right? If you're coming up with a solution, it should be addressing most of the issues which the stakeholders face. Everything that we do serves stakeholders. Who is a stakeholder? Any person or organization who might be positively or negatively impacted by your project outcome. He's a stakeholder for you. We never trade off the interests of one versus the other continuously over time, right? We don't do that. We won't say that, hey, this particular stakeholder is more important for me, so I'm going to listen to his suggestions rather than the other person. We don't do that. Everyone is equal. We act with the purpose that fulfills our commitment to stakeholders, right? We need intensive communication and dialogue with the stakeholders, not just those who are friendly, right? We want to have some healthy discussion with the stakeholders. Stakeholders consist of real people with names and faces and children. They're complex, right? I can easily manage my laptop. I can switch it off whenever I want to. I can switch it on whenever I want to. Managing my mobile is extremely easy. I can answer the calls or wish to disconnect the calls. But managing human beings is going to be extremely tedious, right? Think about your own team members. If you all are part of the appraisal giving process, right? Taking appraisals for your team members, what would happen? Every person will feel that he or she is a superstar, number one performer, and they expect the highest rating. How would you manage them? Yeah, managing the stakeholders is extremely difficult. We need to generalize the marketing approach. We engage with both primary and secondary stakeholders in Agile project, not just with the primary stakeholders. We constantly monitor and redesign the process to make them better serve our stakeholders. What are the steps involved in stakeholder management? First, identify the stakeholders and put down their current level of support which they are providing to you. Understand what is needed from each of the stakeholders, and then develop and implement an action plan and get the required support from the stakeholders. Identify the stakeholders, identify their current level of support, understand what is needed from each of the stakeholders, develop and implement an action plan. Here we go with respect to another knowledge and skill, which is team motivation. In any agile software environment, team motivation plays an extremely important role. There are 3 steps you need to take with each member of your team. What are those 3 steps? Step 1, spend some quality time. Step 2, give feedback to them and coach them. Step 3, be a believer. Trust that the team is going to get the job done. Right? And These are the simple steps to motivate your team. How to motivate an agile team? Consider a result-only work environment. Do not worry on whether a person is sitting in a different posture, right? Whether a person is spending a lot of time on calls, personal calls, whether he's taking longer breaks, things like that. Consider the results only. Share your vision. You might be having a vision in your mind, but does your team know what that vision is? Right? You need to know that. Talk to your team members frequently, basically, right? So build the trust, assign variety of work. Otherwise, people will get bogged down. Boring environment they'll be working in otherwise. Be realistic. Don't give them unrealistic goals, right? Create good environment. They should not be scared of opening up and speaking about the improvements, right? Team focused reward. Don't reward an individual person. Reward the team. Employee participation in planning. That is extremely important. When you're doing some planning, involve them in the plan. They'll feel that they're part of the project. Get immediate feedback. Don't wait for your formal appraisals to happen. Team visibility. Make the team visible in a bigger forum, right? Don't just mention your name as a project manager or scrum master and get the reward. Ensure that all of your team members get that visibility. Immediate recognition. A person has done a good job now. Don't wait for 1 month to reward him. Immediately recognize. Career progression. Show them that here is a clear career progression. Right? So you need to do all that. And then we need to discuss about knowledge and skill level 2.